What's up, freaks? This is just me, and today we're gonna be looking at the best quad sweeps. Now, what do I mean by quad sweeps? I'm of course talking about the outer head of the quadriceps. Anatomically, it's called the Vastus Lateralis because it's like the lateral head of the quad, I guess. You can see where it's located on the image on the screen. This is probably the most important part of the quad because I would say it's the biggest and also the most important in terms of making the quads stand out and draw your eye. I mean, good luck having an impressive set of thighs without having flaring quad sweeps, right? Okay, so in this video, for determining the bodybuilders who have the best sweeping quads, we're gonna be using some front poses and also the side chest, which shows the outer head of the quad from a different angle, and it's pretty exposing in some cases. And one more thing I would like to mention is this list is gonna be in increasing order, the best being at the complete end of this video. However, needless to say, this is plainly my own ranking, so it's not set in stone by any means. So let's get into it. First, we have the man nicknamed the X-Man, and that was of course partially due to his flaring quads, which gave him that X-frame, right? It's Freeman, coming from the 2000s and early 2010s. This man, as I said, was known for his quad sweeps, and to be honest, I don't think they are that mind-blowing. Sure, they're above average and they look pretty good from the side, but at least, based on the pictures and footage I've seen, Freeman makes it on my list just barely. Once again, his sweeps and quads overall are good, but I don't see why he was called the X-Man. I would have much better suited for some of the entries that are to come, such as Big Ramy or maybe Dennis Wolfe, but Freeman was pretty good either way. And we're also going to be including this IFBB Pro. He's a current bodybuilder, although he hasn't competed in a while. It's Josh Leonardo. Josh's quads are a really strong body parts for him, and the outer heads in particular are top notch. They are an eye-catching feature in virtually any pose he does, and although they're not as freaky and oversized as some of the sweeping thighs we're gonna be seeing later, Joshua's muscle insertions of the sweeps in particular are virtually perfect. That's just my opinion, and of course, as always, but I find the shape of the outer parts of the quads just sort of glorious, long enough to not appear strangely formed, but short enough to really flare out very impressively. So to me, this is both quite beastly and quite aesthetic. Next in line is another nowadays competitor, Akeem the Beast Williams. And that's what I was telling you about the short muscle insertions in the quad sweeps. It makes them look quite oddly shaped, if you ask me. But you could argue also unique and trademark. I personally don't like Akeem's quads that much, but I have it in this video because his flaring sweeps are undeniably just massive and they definitely draw your eye. They also look pretty good seen from the side angle, although the highlight there has to be the fantastic quad details. Here's a tank from the 2000s and 2010s, Ben Pakulski. Ben had top tier calves as you can see, but also great upper wheels. And the feature that is most impressive about them, in my opinion, is the almighty sweep of the quads that we are discussing today. Ben's thigh sweeps have a great shape and they look good, and they look to be flaring out very impressively, so they are very good to my eyes. And next is a one-time Olympia champion from the 2010s who unfortunately can't compete at the moment, Sean Rhoden. So Sean has great quads in my opinion as a whole, even though I don't like the shape of his teardrop and middle head at all. I think the teardrops actually look a bit too skimpy, but in this case it only serves to make the sweep look that much bigger and better. The sweeps are the feature that, along with Vaxathorn's small waist, make his X-frame look very impressive and make his physique what it really is. They're not too huge, not too overdeveloped, so they also maintain good proportions. These sweeps don't look very freaky, but they sure look good and nicely shaped. I have 90s talent Milos Sharchev, or Milos Sharchev as I always pronounce it. Either way, he's got really round muscle bellies in his outer thighs and also really big in the quad sweeps, of course. He's got a lot of muscle there, and more importantly, it looks super aesthetic, if you ask me. I think Milos also has great mid hats and teardrops, but his sweeps are sure among the best of all time, too. He has a really beautiful shape to them. Next up on my list is Austin Carr. He's actually a current competitor in the 212 division, but the size of his legs is not small at all. His outer hats are very well shaped. Austin is definitely genetically gifted in this area, and he's got great size to the sweep and quads compared to the rest of his body as well, giving him a magnificent X-frame. So even if the sweeps aren't that standout, given that Austin's teardrops also look very insane, his sweeps are well formed and developed. This is a current bodybuilding talent by the name of Hunter Labrada. Hunter's squats are very well developed as a whole, and the impressive flaring sweeps give the illusion of his squats being very, very large. They also look really good and pleasing. Yes, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, sure, but the shape of Hunter's quad sweeps, in my opinion, is among the best of the current IFBB Pro lineups, easily. And they don't lack size at all. So I hope Hunter can keep improving, and I believe his quads can become nearly unbeatable, especially the crazy sweeps. Look from the side how they shot out. And next we have 7-time Mr. Olympia, the gift Phil Heath. He had great sweeps in his quadriceps, believe me. Especially in the ab and thigh pose, Phil's squats show impressive width, coming not only from the meaty adductors but also from the almighty outer heads, right? He's got good size in the sweeps for sure, but to be frank, they don't look that mind-blowing because the two remaining heads are also really good size. So no, his X-frame is hardly the first feature you notice on his physique, but they are really good when you focus in on them, that's undeniable. So great sweeps for Phil. Next is Hadi Chupin, who competes in the IFBB nowadays. His quads are absolutely a standout feature. His sweeps are really good because they're very massive in comparison with the other body parts on him. Now, I don't think Hadi's quads are particularly well shaped or aesthetically pleasing as a whole, but when it comes to the outer head, it's well shaped for sure, and the outer heads have insane size to them as well. And also, if you take a glance to the right, the Persian Wolf squat sweeps also look great from the side. This is Rafael Brandao, who is a young up-and-coming bodybuilder of the current IFBB Pro League. He's got some of the most separated and sliced squats that I've ever seen. When it comes to the size of the sweeps, it's actually really impressive. Look at the X-frame in all three of the pictures, including the one on the right in the side chest. The quads look really good. A really eye-catching feature of Rafa's great physique, which is overall not as massive, but his sweeps are surely jumbo, and the shape of them, the way they look, is just a thing of beauty. And this is another current bodybuilder, Ian Volier. Look at the size of his crazy quad sweeps. Now Ian is the first guy we're seeing in this video that doesn't really have great quad separation and great teardrops and middle heads to go along with the crazy sweeps, at least as I see it. So that makes them look really impressive, the sheer mass he's got in these outer heads too. He's got a supreme X frame. I know I keep stressing that, but the quad sweeps are really important for the feature, that's why. And his quads also look unreal from the side angle. Ian does a great job displaying that. One more thing going for Ian's quad sweeps is how long they appear. I think they have really good muscle bellies as well. Next comes in a strong entry, the King Ronnie Coleman, record-holding Sandow winner from the 90s and 2000s era. Ronnie had insanely massive and ripped quads, and all three heads of them were really top-notch, including the outer head. There's a bit of a caveat about the sweeps, and that's actually the way Ronnie displays them, the way he poses. He holds his legs very close together most of the time, making them look less impressive in my opinion. But even with this display, which is kind of preventing the illusion of the X-frame, as I see it, you can clearly see how big Ron's quads flare out. The mass he's got on his sweeps is really hard to believe, so that's why he makes it high up on this list. This is the Predator, Kai Green, a freaky bodybuilder from the 2000s and 2010s. Crazy size in his sweeps, of course, as you can notice on the right hand side in his side chest pose. But what makes Kai's quads exceptional are these crazy feathers that are visible very slightly even when he's not flexing his quads. So not only does he have a good level of size, but also some detail and a great shape that makes them jut out enough, but not too much. So this is a great set on Kai Green. And this is a current competitor, Sunil Chadhav, who, fair enough, has Dream Tan on, but either way he looks crazy. He's got excellent teardrops too, no doubt, but his sweeps are just as great, in my opinion. Look at the enormous size. The outer heads have one of the best shapes in bodybuilding history, I would wager to say. Just super impressive. From the side, the quads, they don't look flat, but they could certainly be fuller, if you ask me. But I think the detail and the faint feathering in the quad sweeps, even when not being flexed in the front poses, make up for it. And take a look at Quadzilla, Paul DeMayo too. He was a competitor in the 90s and his quads would absolutely be world class even in today's lineups. Just admire the size of them. Not only the sweeps but also the inner heads, but today we're talking the sweeps, right? So back to them, they have insane mass in them. You can clearly see that in all three photos. Just an incredible blend of size, definition, and aesthetic appeal. Also, in his side chest pose, they look absolutely photoshopped. Paul DeMayo was definitely a freak. But now, this is Mo Shaban. He's an up-and-comer right now, and let me tell you man, these legs are freakishly huge. Compared to the rest of his body, his sweeping quads look mind-boggling. He's got a good X-frame, the outer heads look awesome in the side poses, and they are really long and big. Look at the muscle there. It looks to insert right down into his knee joint, which looks really sickening and freaky in my personal opinion, and that's a compliment. Now, Mohammed Shaban doesn't have great overall separation, not the best details in the sweeps either, but it's the freak factor that propels him so high on this list. Next is someone who's a real sight to behold. This is the incredible 212 competitor Noel Damay, who has some of the roundest quad sweeps I've ever had a look at. The X-frame on this guy is on another level. Have you ever seen anything like that on a 212 competitor? Really, actually think about it, because I don't think so. Again, the roundness, even bulbousness of his outer head is very mind-blowing. The side would be enough to dwarf any other competitor's squats, and it even looks fantastic in the side poses. So this is starting to be really insane. Looks crazy. And we have the quad father, Tom Platz. He is all the way from the 80s, when the size of the legs wasn't very important, but Tom took it to another level. He had an impressive level of mass in his quad sweeps. It's not particularly visible in these pictures, I admit, but you can see it from the side good enough. And on the left, you can notice a lot of feathers, striations too. When it comes to the size, it's just crazy, take my word for it. Especially for his times, his quads were massive. But either way, he's legendary and he's always gonna be celebrated for his quad development, including the sweeps for Tom Platz. This is something completely else in terms of roundness of the quads. This is a fairly obscure bodybuilder from the 2000s, I believe. His name is Caprice Murray, and I'm a big fan of the quad development of this gentleman. They're a mad eye catcher, you can't deny that. They give him a great X frame, and also from the side, that's important as well. His quads look massive, absolutely. And Caprice has also some beautifully shaped and huge teardrops, but I still think the sweeps are just as impressive. His outer thighs just flare out in a perfect round shape. And this is a currently up and coming bodybuilder. He's got immense potential in my opinion. I'm talking about Nick Walker. Nick's quads are the definition of freakiness. Look at the veins, the separation, but another feature that makes them so impressive is the width and size of them, and the outer heads in particular. The quads aren't aesthetically pleasing at all, I think we can all agree on that, but he's got insane size giving him an unique look and a wow factor like no other. Note the size in the side poses too. You might have noticed there's a pretty bad asymmetry with one of Nick's sweeps being noticeably bigger than the other. The muscle belly even looks much different. It's quite odd. So I hope Nick is going to be able to bring one of his quads up to the level of the other one, and then he's going to be unstoppable. And here we got an entry that I sure wouldn't expect. This is a classic physique competitor. Can you believe that? His name is Kang, and he has quad developments like no other in the classic physique division. It's quite weird to say that an aesthetic classic physique has a lot of freak factor, but it really is the case with Chen because the size of the quads is unreal. This is what a real standout quad sweep looks like. They completely dominate his whole physique. They give him a menacing X frame, so Chen Kang is unbelievably gifted in the quad area, and he just looks great. Look how long and shapely his sweeps appear. But I was even more impressed with this bodybuilder, Phil Hill. He has a very surprising look to himself because he comes from the 1980s, and at that time quad development wasn't really that important. But overall, for me personally, his quads are almost more impressive than the quad fathers that we saw a few moments ago. The Golden Eagle Tom Platz from the same era, just a bit earlier. But I'm getting off topic. Phil Hill's outer heads of the quadriceps could rival anyone's in history. He is one of the best representations of an X-frame I've ever seen, and he's got a tremendous amount of mass in his sweeps as well. I mean, you can see that right away how impressively his sweeps jut out. They're not the roundest, but they make up for it by being very rigid and drawing your eye that way. In my opinion, Phil Hill is very underrated in the leg department. Just look at him, it needs no explanation, right? And here we have a modern day set on a current IFBB Pro, Hassan Mustafa. Hassan's quads, in my opinion, only have two flaws. One of them is they need more separation and conditioning, and the other one referring to the shape of the sweeps, which, as you can see on the left, are beastly but lack aesthetic appeal. They look gigantic though, it's hard to believe someone can have such an amount of size on just one of their body parts. I believe Hassan's quads would be one of the biggest in history, And that's of course the result of his sweeps being so wide and humongous. Definitely positively oversized, as you can see in all three pics, especially on the left and the right. These sweeps you're looking at are one of the most insane looking you'll ever lay your eyes on, believe me on that. But this man here has the flowing right shape to battle against that. It's Dennis Wolfe from the 2000s and 2010s, and he is one of the most notorious and most awesome X-frame of all time. He's the definition of great outstanding quad sweeps, right? They're extremely bulbous, as you can notice yourself in these photos, even from the side. The size and muscle mass Dennis has in his quads is super impressive, as well as the way his sweeps are actually formed and shaped. They got quite a unique shape to them and they're very eye-catching. But now we get to the top 5, and in 5th place sits this young man from the current era, Vitaly Golnikov, who has out of this world sized quadriceps. Just like in the big bat's Wolfe's case, the sweeps look superb and very standout in any possible pose. The shape of them is not so rounded and bulbous, but it looks just as great because they still flare out in an impressive fashion. Good Vito doesn't only have great size in his outer heads, but if you look closely, you're gonna notice there are also some slight bits of feathering, which is very impressive. He's great, and I think his potential at this point is through the roof. Look at that X-frame. And here we have the incredible Justin Compton, a talented bodybuilder from the 2000s, who landed number 4 on my list. When we talk about the most impressive quadriceps, outer heads. His X-frame looks absolutely amazing, and it's undoubtedly the first thing you would notice about his physique. Justin has super round muscle bellies in his sweeps, and he's packing so much muscle on there, it looks almost impossible how anyone could even do that. From the side, it's not as amazing, to be honest, but from the front, he's got all the wow factor in the world thanks to the incredible size of his sweeps. Look at him in the ab and thigh, for instance. That's just crazy. And this is 3rd place finisher Baito Abaspar. That's a lesser known bodybuilder who also has round quads and insane size in them. He had one of the most impressive quad developments of the 2010s when he was competing. He's unfortunately crossed over to the other side, so I'm gonna try to remember him today in this video. And let's talk about his incredibly muscular, great outer heads. He's got great shape to them, near perfect. Again, muscle belly not too long, which could make it a bit lackluster in my opinion, but not too short, which would look odd. Look how the sweeps flare out on the sides of Baito's quads. And also in the side shot, really, really impressive, just unreal looking. And 2nd place finisher is Mustafa Mohammed from the 2000s, also displaying great teardrop development, but the sweeps overshadow it in my opinion. They dominate Mustafa's physique from the front, from the side, and don't show detail, but they make up for it by being jumbo sized and just favorably shaped. He's got great muscle bellies in the outer heads, as I see it, and he's done an insanely good job developing them and packing a large amount of muscle on there, so this just needs to be applauded. That's a great set of quad sweeps. And we're getting to 1st place, and since he hasn't been on the list yet, it's the Mistro from the 2010s, Big Ramy. Ramy is also one of the prime examples of what an X-frame looks like on a bodybuilder, as that's largely due to the sweeping quads. From the sides, he's got a decent sweep, and from the front and rear, they are definitely a standout for Big Ramy Mamdeo Osbay. Now, Ramy's quads kind of change shape throughout the years, I feel like. In the middle picture, you can see him at the start of his career, and notice the length of his sweeps, very long. The size is off the charts, but in 2020, that you can see in the left pic, They look even bigger and even more standout because it's like they got shorter. Don't you think so? I find it kind of puzzling, but either way, the short muscle bellies, if I can call it that, provide better freak factor and details with size, but the longer outer quads definitely look more aesthetically pleasing. So he basically couldn't do wrong. He looks great either way. The teardrops are also very strong, but the sweeps really make Rami's physique what it is. I think we can all agree on that. So that's all. Don't forget to let me know down in the comment section below if you enjoyed this video and if you found it interesting. I hope so. Also, tell me about the list. Would you reorder it? Or do you pretty much agree with me on most of my picks? Thanks for letting me know. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to watch some best quads videos and also like and subscribe. Enjoy the rest of your day.